Hello dear viewers. In this episode, we will look at how to start an attack correctly and continue it without losing momentum. We'll figure out what position to take, how to make the proper backswing, and which exercises will help you transfer this skill into your game. My name is Ivan Tomachev and this is a channel about table tennis. Here you'll find lots of useful information to help you improve your game. Before you continue watching, please like and hit the bell. Let's get started. The first thing we begin with is practicing top spins against topspin. If you haven't watched the videos on how to perform a topspin, both against backspin and topspin, be sure to check them out first in the playlist Working on Mistakes. Now, let's focus on the main points. The topspin against topspin is performed from a neutral stance. The distance is one step away from the table with a short backswing striking at the highest point, and the racket contacts the ball at a 45-degree angle. The movement goes slightly upward and forward. Right now we're warming up and practicing the point of contact against a light top spin. After practicing against topspin balls, we move on to topspin against backspin. Here, the stroke technique is different. The backswing is a bit longer, the arm goes slightly under the table, the wrist is in an open position, the knees bend during the backswing, and part of the body weight shifts to the left leg. During the stroke, start to push off, slightly turning your hip and torso forward, and after the shot, release your legs with a light jump in place. This is necessary so that your feet don't stick to the floor after the shot. The direction of the stroke is slightly upward and forward. The distinguishing feature of topspin against backspin and topspin against topspin is the delay of the ball at the highest point. With topspin, the ball bounces quickly and we play with a swift forward motion. With backspin, the ball stops and has strong resistance if you try to spin it, so we use more leg power to push upward, which adds energy and prevents the ball from falling into the net. Additionally, the angles of the racket also play a role. With topspin, we cover the ball and press down on the upper part of the ball. With backspin, we sort of wrap around the ball, slightly opening the racket and directing the wrist movement upward along the tangent, then push it forward. You can also play purely upward, but in that case, the ball will be slow and easy for your opponent to counterattack. Now let's move on to alternating a forehand topspin against backspin and then continuing against topspin. 90% of beginner athletes make a mistake during this transition. What is the reason for this? First of all, we often make the same movement out of habit as we do against backspin. Because of this, the second ball constantly goes out of bounds. Secondly, we make a long backswing, which causes us to simply miss the ball. And the third mistake is playing from the same distance, so the ball hits the edge or jumps over the racket. To avoid this, let's focus on the key points to prevent these mistakes in the future. We've covered the theory, now let's move on to practice. I always start my training sessions with shadow practice and I'll be making a video about it soon. Its importance is unmatched by any other exercise. We practice simulating strokes against both backspin and topspin. For the backspin, we hit with an open racket half a step away from the table, push off, at that moment jump back another half step, position the hand near the stomach and make a forward motion with a closed racket. Repeat this until you learn to mentally keep track of the correct transitions. After shadow practice, we move on to working with the wheel to feel the muscles during contact with the ball. I once again demonstrate the stroke technique to the student and explain the nuances during the backswing, noting that for the second topspin the backswing is much shorter and the racket needs to be closed. The student repeats the movement until he understands and feels it. Then, if the structure of the movement meets all the requirements of the stroke, we start reinforcing it directly on the ball using the BKM through multiple repetitions. I start tossing balls at a moderate pace, pausing between each pair. We toss underspin balls. As soon as the student sends the ball and it starts to clear the net, we launch the second ball with topspin so that the rhythm matches game conditions. Along the way, we correct any mistakes that arise. While practicing this two-step combination, Igor made the following mistake. He was executing the second topspin with his wrist and closing the racket too much, which made the second ball slower than the first. This shouldn't happen. The start shouldn't be faster than the continuation. To avoid this, we emphasize that it's necessary to use more forearm and open the racket slightly to add density and power to the shot. After that, the second ball became significantly faster. After all, when we make the first move, it's very important to maintain the initiative. In my experience, I very often encounter players who make an excellent start, but then switch to poking shots precisely because they don't understand where to get the power for the continuation. Next, we move on to practicing at the table. We start with a long backspin serve and continue with a shot against the block. In this exercise, the athlete began to make technical errors when starting against a backspin serve. Why does this happen? The reality of the situation is that a backspin serve and a chop differ significantly in their overall speed and spin characteristics. A chop typically has more forward speed and spin because the player sends it directly to the opponent's side of the table. A backspin serve, on the contrary, begins to decelerate and lose its momentum more quickly because the first bounce happens on the server's own side. And this is a crucial factor that must be considered by any player when making their first move. Together with Egor, we analyze again why this happens and come to the understanding that the ball doesn't move forward but stays in place. And in order to hit it, when playing a topspin against backspin, we need to direct the shot more forward rather than upward. Every player needs to know these details and nuances. After that, Igor adjusted his movement and started consistently hitting the first ball, which allowed the rally to continue. Next, we create game-like situations, that is, scenarios that can occur in a match before the rally begins. We start making a move after a passive return of a short or a medium serve with a chop and a possible passive response from the opponents. We begin with a chop and then make a move against the opponent's chop. Remember, in this scenario, we play more upward since the ball comes with greater speed and spin. Once we've completed this stage, we practice making the first move after a short return. Here we are already changing 3 positions. This involves moving in for a short ball, making the first move from the left and then continuing from the left. We also polish this to the point of automation, receiving short on the right, starting from the left, then receiving short on the left, starting from the left. Then we add the option where the opponent plays not to the left but closer to the center, to the elbow. Here, you need to quickly move to the center with a side step and lower your stance, then shift to the left and jump slightly back to continue. This combination also needs to be practiced. First of all, such a situation can arise, and it definitely will. Secondly, you will reinforce your opening and follow-up even more, which will have a positive effect on your results. And finally, let's add a forehand attack from the approach. We won't be discussing the technique and details here, I'll just explain why you need to be able to do this. Sometimes in a game situation we can't win with the second or third topspin, and switching to the right side risks a counter-attack from the opponent's forehand. That's when playing from the approach is appropriate. It allows you to refine and sharpen your gameplay in any direction and win the rally. This combination is commonly used by players at all skill levels, so make sure to use it. I hope you found this video helpful. Leave your comments, ask questions, give a like and subscribe to the channel. This was Ivan Tolmachev with you. Thanks for watching and we'll see you next time.